Greetings, I'm Zachary Hepner. Pleased to share this Dvar Torah with you for Parashat, Chayei, Sara. Would Avraham have changed his mind about where to send Eved Avraham to find a shidduch for his son? Well, according to Brian Wilson and Mike Love from the Beach Boys, I quote, "Well, East Coast girls are hip. I really dig those styles they wear. And the Southern girls, with the way they talk, they knock me out when I'm down there. The Midwest farmer's daughter really make you feel all right. And the Northern girls, with the way they kiss, they keep their boyfriends warm at night. I wish they could all be California girls. The West Coast has the sunshine and the girls all get so tanned. I dig a French bikini on a Hawaiian island dolls by a palm tree in the sand. I've been all around this great big world, and I see all kinds of girls. Yeah, I couldn't wait to get back in the States, back to the cutest girls in the world. East Coast, particularly the California girls, are the best of the bunch, and the East Coast girls have great style. But while Brian Wilson and Mike Love choose California girls, Avraham Avinu chooses the East Coast, in particular, Mesopotamian girls. Avraham would have changed the words of the song the following. He would have added the four verses. The girls between the rivers, Euphrates and Tigris, they dig their parents' idols and are friendly with much grace. Nahor and Betuel's daughter, a tzaddik's lips she wants to taste. Join the tribe she really wants to, so let's us leave post haste." End quote. In all seriousness, today, the verdict of where the best girls come from is still unclear. But 4,000 years ago, Avraham Avinu knew that his future daughter-in-law ought to come from between the rivers. In Parashat Chayei Sara, Avraham passes on the role of Shadchan to his son Yitzchak, to his servant Eved Avraham. Avraham is loath to allow Yitzchak to marry a Canaanite woman. Breshit 24:3. Asher lo tikach isha livni mibnot haknani asher anechi asher bekarbo. He adjures his servant from attempting to getting Yitzchak a wife and he must go to Padan Aram. And even after Eved Avraham questions Avraham makes it clear that although he would like a daughter-in-law, Ashki'im el artzi ve'el moladti telech. While Padan Aram is not technically where he was born, the text seems to indicate that it's close enough. And then Avraham makes his guidelines explicit on verse 6. Hishamar lacha pentashivet benishama. Be forewarned, do not return my son to Mesopotamia. Then Avraham repeats himself in verse 8. Rak et beni lo tashev shama. Do not, under any circumstances, return my son there. So on first blush, one might conflate the motives of the first guidelines with those for the latter guidelines. Avraham is loath for his son to marry the immoral Canaanite daughters. Therefore, one might assume that Avraham must also be loath to have Isaac return to Padan Aram or Ur-Kasdim because of their immoral mores. However, this reasoning does not hold. If Avraham considers the mores of Mesopotamia objectionable enough that he would refuse to relocate there, then should he be just as loath regarding the Mesopotamian daughters, and just as he would not consider the Canaanite daughters? Note that the Rambam in Hilchot Deot famously supports this idea. I'm going to quote it. Derech briato shel adam lihyot nimshach b'deotav u'b'masav acharei re'av v'chavirav v'nehag keminhag anshe medinotav lefichach tzarich adam lehitchaber letzadikim u'leishev etzel hachachamim tamid u'litrachek min harashaim. V'im hayu anshe hamedina reshaim yelech lemakom she'anashav tzadikim. V'im kol hamedinot nohagim derech lo tova yeshev badad. The Rambam says that it's impossible not to absorb the philosophy, the zeitgeist, and the mores of the environment. You should make an effort to live near Talmidei Chachamim and Tzadikim to absorb their mores. The Rambam goes so far to say that it is better to become a hermit than to live in a place that has no redeeming neighborly values. This Rambam fully supports Abraham's objection to the Canaanite women. Isaac marrying a Canaanite? They would be forced to attend his mother-in-law's festivals and judicial proceedings and Christmas parties. It would be impossible for him not to absorb their immoral attitudes. So it's because of the in-laws that Abraham objects to returning Isaac to Mesopotamia? Not so, says Chazal. They have a totally different take. Breshit Rabbah 59. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ola Tmimahu, Ve'en Ola Yotzeit V'chutz La'aretz. Isaac is a burnt offering, and a burnt offering cannot leave the Holy Land. This is a pun. A burnt offering is an olah, and one who ascends to the land of Israel is an oleh. The Midrash plays on this. An olah can only go upwards in holiness, not downward. Isaac cannot leave the Holy Land. However, Rashi on Breshit doesn't make it as a pun. This is Breshit 26:2, when Isaac is trying to leave to go to Egypt in Parashat Toldot. Lefi sha'ala imot lemizbeach nidkadsha v'naseh olah umikudash lamakom. Ve'en olah yoredet lachutz. This Rashi explains why God prohibited Isaac from moving to Egypt during the famine in Parashat Toldot. Rashi writes that Yitzchak was raised onto the altar and is holy to the omnipresent as an olah. He cannot leave to go outside, meaning outside of Eretz Yisrael. Abraham's reasoning against Isaac leaving the Holy Land was not because of the mores of the Mesopotamian women, but because Isaac's sacrifice raised him to a status that prevents him from leaving the Holy Land. Note the paradox. Isaac was not literally a burnt offering. That's why he's alive. But according to Chazal, he was as if, ki'ilu, a burnt offering. That is itself a dissertation loaded with symbolism. But returning the question at hand, Isaac's status as a burnt offering, korban, gives extra meaning to the final verses of the pericope in 24:67. Vayeviah Yitzchak ha'ohel asaremo v'ikach et Rivka v'atilo lisha vayehava v'inachim Yitzchak achrayimo. Yitzchak finally brought Rebekah into his tent. The polar opposite of the impurity outside of the Holy Land is the ohel. The opposite of chutz is ohel, the tent where Yitzchak and Rebekah lived. Chazal pick up on this language, and as Rashi very famously cite the Medrash, the tent of Isaac and Rivka become a pseudo holy sanctuary or tabernacle. Shekol zman shesara kayemet haya ner daluk uvracha mitzuya beisa v'adan kashur la'ohel ukeshaba Rivka chazru. The ner tamid, the permanent light, the cloud, the blessing of the dough, all these three things returned when Rivka entered the tent. The conclusion is unmistakable. Yitzchak cannot leave the Holy Land because he is a burnt offering, and when he builds his family with Rebekah, their home mirrors the holiness of the Mishkan or of the temple. So the verdict is still out. We don't know if Brian Wilson or if Mike Love are correct, if the California girls are the best, but we're here because Avraham chose to send his servant to Padan Aram. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom.